ready.
Call this meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's my seat. Good morning. This is the Porter County Board of Commissioners meeting. It's Tuesday, July 12th, 2022, a little past 10 o'clock. Move right into consent agenda. Melanie?
Approval of payroll, June 10th, 24th, and July 8th, 2022. Approval of claims, June 9th, 16th, 23rd, 30th, and July 8th, 2022. Approval of minutes, June 7th, 2022. Treasurer's monthly report, May 31st, 2022, filed.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, next up, we have an appointment of a citizen to the Alcohol Beverage Commission. I think we've gotten some applications in, I believe 5. So we want to move to filling that position.
Make a motion to appoint Ed Howe.
I'm sorry, Laura.
Ed Howe.
Yeah, second.
We have a motion and a second for Ed Howe to fill the Alcohol Beverage Commission appointment through December 31st, 2022. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. An announcement here, we'll be accepting applications to appoint a citizen to the Airport Authority Board. The deadline to apply will be July 29th, 2022.
Is there a party requirement with that one?
Yeah, I don't believe so.
Okay. No party requirement.
Yep. Next up on our list is we have an employee request to add their daughter onto an insurance outside of the open enrollment due to a custody change. So we need to move through this.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up, Porter County Fair Emergency Action Plan. I don't think we have a presenter for that.
Ellen's here.
Ellen's here.
Well, do you need a presenter? I was told you didn't, but
Oh, okay. Well, no, I mean, we're just updating it. I didn't see anybody here. I didn't see it here.
sorry, nothing's changed.
Okay, that's really all we need. We have to file this emergency action plan every year prior to the fair. And so this would be the same plan with no changes being put forward for 2022.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the Porter County Fair Emergency Action Plan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up, we have a resolution here to pursuant to I.C.5-22-22-8. This is disposition of property pertaining to 8 light bars, which will be donated through the Porter County E911 Center. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what do you got here?
These are old light bars from the center that were not moved over. We purchased new.
Are those
when
the
we-
green, red?
Yes.
yellow
yeah,
one thing?
yeah.
Okay.
And actually, ISP provided a key card that will help us kind of put together our CAT 11 using spare parts, and we're still waiting for a CoWorks license, but they provided something to us kind of as a trade as well.
I'll make the motion. I don't see a problem with it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks, Debbie. See you later on in the agenda, I think. Guess that's it. Next up, we have an ordinance which will be repealing Chapter 10.24 and adopting new Chapter 10.24 for vehicle weight restrictions. This is a Frost law. And this is first reading. This would be a public hearing. Attorney McClure, do you want to go, is there anything on the Frost laws that we want to add, or does
Just
the highway need to?
The highway, my understanding is the highway department, the sheriff's department, even the judiciary were involved in streamlining the Frost law, and after that group of people met and put it together. This is the version of that. I reviewed it. I think it makes it much more user-friendly, much more straightforward. And when it needs to be enforced, it's more straightforward on enforcement, but it's also clear on when that would occur. I think it's streamlined between highway, sheriff's department, and the judiciary, which is obviously all three branches that would be touching it and all looking at it from different standpoints. So I don't have any revisions.
Not if those agencies signed off.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna open up a public hearing here, and we're gonna ask anybody to come forward to speak either for or against this ordinance. It's for this ordinance only that the public hearing is being open for. So we're gonna pause the commissioners' meeting, we're gonna open up a public hearing. We're gonna give anybody 3 opportunities to come forward to speak in favor and 3 opportunities to come forward and speak against. First call, anybody wishing to come forward to speak against this ordinance? Second call, anybody wishing to come forward to speak against this Frost Law ordinance? Third call, anybody wishing to come forward to speak against this Frost Law ordinance? First call, anybody wishing to come forward to speak in favor of the Frost Law ordinance? Second call, anybody wishing to come forward to speak in favor of this Frost Law ordinance? And third and final call, anybody wishing to come forward to speak in favor of the Frost Law ordinance? And with that, the public hearing is now closed. I'll throw it back to the commissioners for discussion.
I mean, it just sounds like it's a better ordinance, more enforceable and easier to understand, so.
The Frost Law ordinance has always been difficult. It's always been cumbersome. You start dealing with truck weights and axle weights and distribution of that weight and speed. So I do think this is through that collaborative effort, is a better version.
Yeah. I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on an ordinance repealing the Frost Law and replacing it with a new law and with new restrictions. This is first reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll be hearing second reading on that at our next meeting. Pulse Technology, next up, this is an annual maintenance agreement in the amount of $1,886.98 for the mail machine and the scale in this building. Any thoughts, comments, questions?
Motion to approve.
Yeah. It's an annual contract.
Yeah,
or-
Yeah.
Have to
Oh,
do it.
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on Pulse Technology on a maintenance agreement for the mail machine and the scale in this building. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up, Auditor Vicki Urbanek. Good morning, Madam Auditor.
Good morning. Which okay, here we go. Good morning, Commissioners. Well, I have 2 items to bring to your consideration this morning, both of which are pretty exciting, both of which deal with the American Rescue Plan Act and our county's allocation of the state and local fiscal recovery fund award totaling just over $33 million. The first item is our very first written agreement between our county and one of our subrecipients. This is a written agreement with Morgan Township. We are required to have a written agreement with all of our subrecipients spelling out the terms and the conditions of the sub-awards. To recap, back in February, you approved the first phase of the ARPA expenditure plan totaling approximately $4 million, and that included $500,000 to the townships. And you gave the townships quite a bit of flexibility in terms of how they wish to use their money, as long as it is in compliance with the final rule established by U.S. Treasury. We have our first township ready to go. It's Morgan Township, and the written agreement that's before you has been compiled based on other written agreements throughout the country. Tailor-made for our purposes. It has been reviewed and approved by the county attorney. And this will be the same structure of the written agreement that we have for all of our subrecipients going forward. So we won't have to recreate the wheel every time there's another subaward, of which there will be money. So Morgan Township, as stated in the agreement, has decided to use their allocation of just over $11,000 to purchase protective medical clothing for the volunteer fire department. And the terms of the award are spelled out. They have decided to go through the reimbursement process whereby they will pay for the purchase and then they will submit the claim and the supporting documentation for reimbursement. So once you approve this written agreement, we will then move forward with implementing this expenditure.
I have a question before we get
Yes.
started. What happens if, what if they change the final rule again? Our federal government, of course.
Well, if they change the final rule, either you can choose to just go with this agreement as is. I'm not sure how we would unwind this once this is approved. Conceivably, if we come up with another funding source, we could reimburse the grant fund and then pay for this another way. But once you approve this agreement, I believe it's a
Once we approve the agreement, though, does following the final rule now come up to the people that got the money? Or does it still fall back on us?
It falls back on us, basically. We are the awardee. We're the recipient of this. And in the cases of the sub-recipients, they are carrying out a project on our behalf, and we are responsible for ensuring that the funds are spent properly. We will be audited on all of this, and that's why we have
Why I'm
really...
asking.
Okay, exactly. We have established a internal control process in the auditor's office so that we're going to have documentation on every dollar that's spent. Because this is going to be my 8th year of being the auditee, and I have a little bit of an idea of what the examiners are going to be requesting. So my goal is to have a real thorough and complete audit file for every project that comes under this award.
And the reason I'm mentioning
Okay.
this is we have an election. You are not going to be our auditor next year because you're termed out. So I just want to make sure as we go into a new, we will have a new auditor, right? So I just want to make sure that there's continuity as we continue
Yes.
to go through there, because I've seen this rule on this thing change so many times.
Right.
I just am afraid that something's going to happen and then we're handcuffed again or something. And maybe that won't happen, but I like talking it all the way through just to have a record of it so we know we got to keep our eyes on this thing. And I'm sure if there is a change, you will be broadcasting that out to everybody too.
Absolutely. In the agreement, there is a provision about if something comes up later on where it appears that this is no longer in compliance, we, the county, has sole discretion to cancel the agreement.
Yeah. Not
So there's a
looking for
lot of
that.
protections in
Yeah,
place in
I'm
this
not
agreement.
trying to get into that. I'm just trying
Yeah.
to look out ahead a little bit here because we've had some back and forth on it, and I just want to make sure we get
From
to this
the
point.
audit standpoint, I can tell you that we're doing everything that we can to build that audit file now because it is much easier to get all the documentation and all the minutes and all the discussions and all the emails and all the conversations filed, documented now, rather than wait for a year, and then we would have everyone running around trying to answer the questions of the auditors.
It's always good to get it up front.
Yes.
So, thank you. That was my only question I
Okay.
had. So any other further questions of Madam Auditor? We can get into the public hearing portion. So the ordinance itself,
Is there a hearing for this agreement, or?
it's a
just-
hearing for the ordinance. We're going to do a public hearing, right?
On the next one.
Should we vote on this first?
Yeah, we have to vote on this
Oh,
first.
on the Morgan ARPA one. Yeah, so back to the Morgan ARPA one, yeah.
Motion to approve the Morgan Township ARPA agreement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the Morgan Township ARPA agreement. Any further discussion?
And just kudos to the trustee's office for spending those funds in that way.
And I will say Morgan Township did everything that was requested of them. We asked for a letter that documents how they plan to spend the money, a budget, and we also asked the date that this was approved by the Township Board, and they complied, and we've been in conversation with them.
Well, they know your reputation. They get full with you, so.
And kudos
Also
to you for
neighbors
getting
with
all
them,
of
so-
this up front.
Yes. So we'll be coming before you with more and more of these agreements as we go forward.
Will this be online so other communities can maybe look at it and
Yes.
get an idea?
Yes.
Okay.
Got a motion and a second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up, we're going to get into an ordinance ratifying Porter County's third proposed Investments America Rescue Act funds plan for the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. Anything, Vicki, you want to go over the ordinance itself, or?
Yes. Well, first off, before I guess we get into the actual ordinance and the adoption, I'm here on behalf of the ARPA Steering Committee to formally present to you the Steering Committee recommendations. Just to give you a recap of where we got to this point, in brief, back in February, after you approved the first phase of the ARPA expenditures, you also opened the online portal, inviting people to apply for a portion of our county's SLFRF award. Under a suggestion, a proposal presented by Commissioner Blaney, 4 subcommittees were formed along with a steering committee. Then over the course of about 10 weeks, the subcommittees really got to work. None of this is news to you because you chaired these subcommittees, and in the case of Commissioner Biggs, you chaired 2 of them. So there were a total of 23 meetings held. When the proposals were first presented to the steering committee, we had the subcommittees, we had 63 applications, well in excess, to the tune of more than $24 million over the available ARPA grant. So clearly, there was a lot of work in store for the subcommittees. The subcommittees then scored and evaluated the proposals, and then they presented the recommendations to the steering committee. The steering committee met twice, June 16th and June 23rd, and they made some decisions. One of which was that they are recommending that the county take advantage of a one-time revenue loss allowance whereby we can designate up to $10 million of our ARPA award for projects that do not necessarily comply with U.S. Treasury's final rule. If we don't opt for this, then we would have to follow the restrictions that are in place for all of our projects. The steering committee also decided at their first meeting that all of the projects from the subcommittees, if they scored an average score or greater, they would move on to the next phase. Then at their next meeting, they fine-tuned that decision. In some cases, they eliminated projects. In other cases, they moved some projects up the line, and they cut back the funding for some projects. Shortly after the steering committee, their recommended list was posted online, and so people who have been following this process, this is probably not news to them. This list has been available for public consumption ever since the steering committee made their recommendations. So what I'd like to do in the next few slides is to give you a visual look of what the steering committee is recommending in another way. Under this first pie chart, this first chart takes a look at just the steering committee's recommendations in terms of the types of projects that would be funded with our ARPA grant. Some of the largest projects fall in the area of stormwater, housing and homelessness, and education and workforce development. There are other types of projects that receive fairly large pieces of the pie. They include behavioral health, public safety, and family and youth programs. I do want to emphasize that this pie chart only looks at the identifiable projects right now. It doesn't address the ones that we don't yet know, like those in the revenue loss category. The next pie chart is the same project classification, except it takes us a step back and includes that approximately 4 million of projects that were included in the first phase. And for the most part, the projects look about the same. I will say that the tourism, ecotourism category bumped up quite a bit because, as you remember, Market Trail was in that very first set of projects. And again, this pie chart only reflects the identifiable projects at this time. It does not include, for example, most of the townships, because we don't yet know how the townships plan their allocation. The next pie chart just breaks apart the steering committee's recommendation based on who are going to be the users of this award. You could see loss allowance takes about a third of the total funding, but so do non-for-profit organizations. Under the steering committee's proposal, nonprofit organizations were sharing about 34% of the total. Once again, next slide, we take a step back, and now let's look at the whole funding project, and this pie chart changes a little bit. County projects takes up a little bit more, mainly because we had projects in that first phase. And then the very last slide, and I know no one will be able to read this, but once this is posted online, you'll be able to see just how I group the projects together. Other people might group these projects in a different way. It just shows how I came upon the pie chart classification. One other item that I just want to briefly mention to you in the plan that's before you is something that the steering committee did not vote on, but I am proposing that we pay for the costs of preparing all of the meeting minutes out of our ARPA grant, which is completely allowable. The total cost comes to just under $2,000. This doesn't change any of the numbers, and that's because we have remaining balance in the appropriation under the salary line item under premium pay. But because it's not in your plan, I'm requesting that you put this in your plan so that when it comes before the county council, all they have to do is a budget transfer from salary to hourly. Like I said, it doesn't change any of the dollar amounts. So, in summary, the plan that's before you represents a total of 25 public meetings, all of which were video recorded, meeting minutes taken, all of which have been posted online. The steering committee plan includes 36 different projects. It involves 20 non-for-profit organizations in Porter County, which will share in about 1/3 of our ARPA award. I can tell you that in discussions with some of our subrecipients, there is a great deal of enthusiasm about this project. There have been groups that have told me that this is really a game changer for them to get this money. Keep in mind that a little more than a year ago, we didn't even know that there was going to be $33 million of federal funding coming to us until the American Rescue Plan Act was signed into law. There are several groups that are really ready to go, and they're proud of their programs, and so with this approval, they will be able to proceed. So with that, I will conclude my presentation, give it to you for your consideration, so that we can move forward with the next phase, which would be implementation of this grant award. Thank you.
All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to open up a public hearing here, and I guess this is to act on, again, we'll have 3 opportunities to come forward to speak in favor of this ordinance, and 3 opportunities to come forward to speak against this ordinance. And what we'll do is we'll suspend the commissioners' meeting, open up a public hearing. First call, anybody wishing to come forward to speak against this ordinance. Second call, anybody wishing to come forward to speak against this ordinance. Third call, anybody wishing to come forward to speak against this ordinance. First call, anybody wishing to come forward to speak in favor of this ordinance. Second call, anybody wishing to come forward to speak in favor of this ordinance. Third and final call, anybody wishing to come forward to speak in favor of this ordinance. And with that, the public hearing is closed. We're going to throw it to the Board of Commissioners here on first reading. Any comments, questions, or motions?
The one thing that really stood out to me is that more than 60% of the entire ARP funds that we had available to us are going to be reallocated outside of county government into the private sector. Correct?
Did you say 60%?
More than 60%, actually.
Okay,
If you go back to your pie chart, that pretty much shows it.
I had about 34% to nonprofits.
Well, it's not just nonprofits. It was, other, I mean, that's what I'm getting off the pie chart. If you go back to the pie chart, it was more than 60% that was being spent outside of county government.
Okay, that one section deals with the revenue loss category, and that is setting aside the category for those projects that probably would not be in compliance otherwise with
Okay.
the final rule.
But that, so the lost revenue is, we're talking about us here.
Well, that remains to be seen, what the projects will be. For example, we do know or highly suspect that part of the Market Trail project will need to be assigned to that category. How much? We're working with the Stormwater Department to fine-tune that part of the federal grant. I
Well-
also need to mention, I do have that standing request about our health insurance fund being allocated to that.
I think that you and your office has done a wonderful job, more than even I expected, and I was fully in support of bringing you on to chair the steering committee. What we did here is not usual around the state of Indiana. How the majority of the counties that I spoke to, which was at least 24, they were spending it internally, all of it. And I know it wasn't easy at times, but I think that we should be really proud of the work that we've done here today, up to this point.
I agree. The subcommittees and the steering committee have spent a great deal of time analyzing these proposals. Everyone took it seriously.
It wasn't perfect, but there is no perfect process. We were given a situation that we had to deal with, and we had no playbook to go by, and I think we just made the best out of it. And I really like the outcome.
I agree, I like the outcome, and when I put the idea out there, this is what I was hoping for. And it was, it's kind of scary to put that out there when so many things could go wrong, and we're in this political battlefield all the time, and everybody really put all of that aside and worked together, and it was a non-political process, and we had great involvement by our public and especially our committee members. And I think we are funding some great things, both within the county and outside of the county with our nonprofits. And I appreciate all the time. 10 weeks, how many meetings was that altogether?
Altogether, 25.
And
And I
that's a lot of
didn't
meetings.
calculate the total, but I think Kurt has a
They weren't half-an-hour meetings either.
80, I was going to say 80. Yeah.
So a lot of people put a lot of time in and did some really good work, and we've got a great outcome. Especially you. Thank you, Vicki.
It was my honor.
Thank you. Good. No, I think I think we ended up with a good process here and a good outcome. I think the reason we were able to do what we were able to do is because of how we've run this county and how we financially have taken care of it over the last at least 7 years that I've been here. And I think that's what allowed us to do this. I think if we'd have been in much dire conditions,
Absolutely.
we probably would have been like a lot of other counties and looking at it to just get done things internally. So I think it has a lot to do with our work up here and the council's work
Council.
over the last 7 years, and it afforded us this luxury and this opportunity to do that. So I'm very thankful and very pleased with the outcome. So with that, now we're gonna throw it to the floor here for any further discussion, and this is first reading. This would be voted on at our next meeting for second reading, and then I believe then after the ordinance is passed, then the council can start approving the I'm just trying to make sure I understand the next steps here. Is that how it's going to go?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the county council must approve the appropriations. And we did advertise it for this coming month's agenda.
But we should preface that with, there's no reason for any of the three of us or your office to believe that any of those numbers should change once it gets in front of the county council.
I don't believe so.
Yeah. Okay.
That's, yeah. So we need, so our second reading would be August 2nd. Does that? That's fine. That's fine with the, okay. Just want to make sure we're all timed up, that's all. Okay, so throw it to the floor for action.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on an ordinance on first reading ratifying Porter County's third proposed Investment American Rescue Act funds plan for the American Rescue Act Plan of 2021. First reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you.
Before we move into Lee here, Lee, take a seat, I'm sorry. I forgot earlier in the process, I'm going to make Vicki run back to her desk here. We have some community crossing grant bids that we want to open up, and then we want to give them to our highway department and the planning department to look those bids over, and then we'll come back at the end of the meeting so we can get those ratified, so we can get our next paving projects going here for the summer. I was supposed to do that in the beginning to give you a little more time, but I forgot, Bob, I'm sorry, so.
Good morning.
Morning, Jim. Okay, first bid is Milestone Contractors. And their quote is, this is their quote, $2,396,423.01. 2,396,423.01. Milestone Contractors. Next up is Reith Riley. $2,416,664.20. $2,416,664.20. And those are your two. Look them over and. Not too bad.
Good.
Not too bad. I had my fingers crossed for you.
Good. Sound pretty decent.
So, yeah, they did. That's. Whew. Okay, next up, Lee. Lee from IT. What do you got here, Lee?
Good morning. So I have a proposal just to bring fiber into the new museum building so they can have internet and share our network connection.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on a proposal for a private fiber optic connector for the Porter County Museum in the amount of $836.28. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Memorial Opera House, Scott McDonald. Looks like we got an MOU here, Memorandum of Understanding. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm well, yourself?
Good.
Good, good.
What do you got?
So this is a memorandum of understanding between ourselves and Memorial Opera House Foundation. Memorial Opera House Foundation, as we all know, helps with direct support for Memorial Opera House. They have a budgeted line item every year that they use that helps to purchase AV equipment to help offset some of the costs that the 48% of operational costs that ticket sales bring in won't cover because our salaries, things like that, chew that money up very quickly, right? So in order to continue functioning and continue offering quality things like good costumes, rights for shows that are very, very expensive, we need to lean on the foundation a little bit to make sure that those gaps get filled. In 2020, Memorial Opera House Foundation decided that they would start presenting concerts. They would be the fiduciary body that would cover Limelights because that's the group that grantors want to give money to for children's programs, all of that. So what we're running into, though, is a bit of a cash flow problem right now because all of the ticket sales for the concerts, all the tuitions, all of that come through our ticketing software and go into our Horizon bank account, which we then do a report of collections to the county. And I sat down with Vicki and Tony to discuss what the best way to solve this issue would be. Because grants are earmarked, donations are often earmarked, we want to make sure that the foundation can continue to contract to pay cash for us for our needs. So we decided that the memorandum of understanding would be the best way to do that. If anything exceeds the agreed upon line item of direct support, then we would move those funds back over to the Opera House Foundation, and they can spend it as they see fit, be it on operations, making sure that we have qualified instructors for limelights, making sure that we, as we start gearing into Penguin Project, things along those lines, that we have qualified folks that can make sure that we're successful in all of that.
And all the money they raise comes back to you?
Correct.
To the Opera House?
Correct.
In some form?
So this in no way increases our subsidy of the operations?
No.
Okay.
It's an
No, I mean,
MOU.
it's a memorandum of
Not a
understanding.
bill.
Okay. Well, I understand it's an MOU, but the MOU would dictate what we're responsible for as well.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not sure I understand.
The question is, will the MOU increase, I guess the question's to the attorney. Does it in any way increase our obligation to the operations over there?
It does not.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, what did the foundation kick in last year?
Sure. During our recovery from post-pandemic, they kicked in over $100,000 to make sure that as we brought staff back from furlough, as we were producing shows, that we were able to come back as fully as we possibly could.
Thank you.
All right.
Motion to approve the MOU.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on an MOU for the Memorial Opera House. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Scott.
much.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Scott.
Next up, Expo Center. Lori Daly. Good morning, Lori.
Good morning.
First up, what you got? Effie Moran?
Yeah, annual inspection of the sprinkler systems in the first three buildings and the first three barns.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for Effie Moran on a proposal to provide inspection and testing of fire protection suppression systems, 3 west fire sprinkler systems, and 2 wet fire sprinkler systems, and 2 dry fire sprinkler systems in the amount of $2,560.
And that is split with the Fair Board.
Yeah. Okay, first one up, we motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion carries.
You can do the next three together.
Do the next 3 together. So what do you got here?
There's 3 requests to transfer funds within the Expo budget, all coming from hourly, $4,000 to gas, $6,000 to household and bedding, and then $3,000 to liability coverage.
Okay. Any further comments or questions?
Yeah, fuel went up in price, huh? Imagine
bad.
that, huh?
So we, recently, I switched out the tanks. Rackham out of LaPorte was providing our tanks. We did not have a contract with them, so we decided to go local. So we went with Co-Alliance. Their tanks are a lot bigger. So the initial filling of them is a little bit
Big
more than
one.
we expected, yeah.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on 3 requests to transfers here at the Expo Center. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion carries.
Thank you.
Next up, facilities, or maybe, no.
Tracy here?
I guess we're gonna handle this one ourselves, huh?
Okay.
She was on.
I saw her by the door, but evidently she didn't come in.
Well, on the facilities, we asked Miss Wood, our department head to get quotes for the property cleanup at 153 North County Road 250 West. I know she went out and attempted to receive 3 quotes. She was only able to receive 2. And this is to part of an unsafe building action that has taken place against this property owner. And he had until early June, I want to say maybe June 3rd or June 6th to get it cleaned up. I did have an opportunity to speak with our code enforcement officer this morning. We took pictures yesterday, and even as of today, the property has not been brought up to our codes with still a significant amount of debris in the 4 corners of the property. So in reviewing the 2 quotes, or the 2 people that actually responded with quotes, we have one from the Junk Luggers and one from Junk Monkey. And the lowest quote is the $24,920. And in reviewing that quote before the meeting, that is based upon removal of all items on exterior of property, including heavy equipment, piles of chopped up wood, includes 2 pickup trucks, 1 car, 1 flatbed truck. They're estimating it's going to be about a 7 or 8 day job with a volume of somewhere around 18 to 22 truckloads, 4 people a day, and that is the lowest quote at $24,920. And from the legal perspective, I think that's the lowest quote, and it's the specifications as outlined, I believe, take care of what we're looking for, which is corner to corner in the property, bringing the yard into compliance with our property maintenance, well, first our unsafe building ordinance and then our property maintenance ordinance. So I believe this would accomplish that. I don't see, I'm assuming obviously they don't have a start date, it's to be determined, because before today they don't know who's getting the contract. So that would be negotiated or dealt with after a contract is awarded, if a contract is awarded.
Okay. I see sort of some of the faces in the audience sort of surprised by this, and I can tell you from my perspective, this has been a long 4 years trying to get this guy in compliance, and every time he'd move some stuff out, he'd get a little break and then he'd move stuff back in again, and I'm glad we're finally dealing with this now, I guess I should say, but it's sort of disappointing. We're seeing more and more of that out there. We're getting more and more comments and complaints about this, and it's an area within this county that we need to, to give you a little indication of what we've done. We've seen this coming for a while. And when Laura and I and Jim first got into this, there was no unsafe building fund, zero nada in Porter County. There was zero. So what we did was we commandeered some of our decks and accessory building permits. We commandeered a little bit of that money to go into a fund. That was 5 years ago. Now that fund has over $100,000 in it. So now what we can do is we can come in here, take care of these issues to get everybody to move on, and then the county can then lien or do whatever to the property to whenever it sells or whatever, we can get that money back because it's your money. It's not ours. We're just using it to get a bad actor back in place here. So I'm glad we're here today. I'm disappointed we're here today. It shouldn't have to be this way, but we as a county are going to take some action here, and we're going to start the process in trying to get this back into compliance. So with that, I'd like to make the motion to, I hope I say this right, to move on Junk Luggers $24,920 bid.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just to touch on something that you had brought up, Jeff, is that, this has been a long time coming. My personal opinion is that it's not local government's job, or it shouldn't be, to go in and clean up private property with public tax dollars, unless the property posed a public health risk. We're talking about a property here is not vacant. It is, someone lives there, because they wouldn't do what they were asked to do, and even told by the law to do. We have to come in now and spend, our county attorney has spent, dozens of hours? Dozens?
Over the last 7 years?
Yeah.
Dozens.
And I do not understand how a property owner, why anybody would buy a home and buy property of that size without the intent of keeping it up. Like most people, the vast majority of our residents, their largest investment is their home. And when somebody moves in next door or buys a property next door to them and doesn't keep that property up, it doesn't reflect well on the adjoining property owners, and at the end of the day, it hurts the value of that property. I wish there was a way to just absolutely take that property from them, but there's not. Again, as Jeff pointed out, we go back on this issue more than 4 years. And he has had every opportunity to comply, and none of it was being unreasonable what he was asked to do. Yet it's just the heck with you. So here we are.
All I would add is that this is in a county our side of, obviously we have issues that come up like this. If you don't have 177,000 people living in your area and not have some issues arise. This, however, is an extraordinary situation as far as the level of which he allowed this yard to come into play. So I would agree, lots of work had been done with him to have him attempt to clean it up. He would make progress and then fall back and make progress and fall back. And then obviously, we don't have an army of code enforcement officers out there to constantly be dealing with it. So here we are, and I believe this will at least get us, assuming the contract's approved, I believe this will at least get us back to a clean start point, at which point obviously our code enforcement officer is going to have to be very much attuned into what's happening on the property, because none of us want to end up back where we're spending $25,000 of unsafe building money to clean up one yard. But I think this is unfortunately where this particular property owner took us in our travels. So I believe this is our best option at this point.
And one other thing I'd like to clear up, there's been some emails sent and other things that we're not taking this seriously. What everybody needs to understand is during COVID for 2 years, you could not have any of these public hearings to address these derelict buildings and that, because they were protected under the executive order. So what we've actually seen during COVID was a lot of these places got worse because they knew that there was nobody that could come in and take them to court, because the courts weren't hearing the cases because it had to do with property rights. And so now that we're coming out of COVID, we're starting to see a lot more had been done on those places during COVID. So now we even have a deeper hole to dig out of, but we're gonna keep pushing forward, and this is the first one on the list, but there's more to come.
Well, there's been lots on the list, but this is the only property that hasn't cooperated.
Yeah,
put it that way.
the other ones we've gotten on them, and then they came back and then they cleaned it up real quick, but as we were sitting at the end of their driveway.
We have some unsafe buildings set for this Thursday at 1:30. Upon, those individuals receiving those, there was action immediately on more than half of those. So this is the outlier, this type of reaction, but obviously keeping the pressure up and the standards up is what we're attempting to do. So I don't want to leave people with the impression that no one is complying. The vast majority of people, when they get the nudge, they do begin to comply, and those that don't, then we just have to keep traveling down the road.
And that's why this particular case should be the people who have no intentions of following the ordinances or caring about their adjoining property values of their neighbors. take note of this. 'Cause I got a feeling this ain't gonna be the last time, unfortunately, but we will do something if, you know, we're pushed to that end, so.
And I think that having that fund, one thing I've learned up here is if you have a fund that's dedicated to do something up here, you can usually get things done. But when you don't have a fund, that most of the people know it. So that's what was happening up here before. You'd get a complaint and then everybody'd look around, well, how are we gonna pay for it? And then it would just not, you know, then everybody freeze because they had no money source. And now we have a dedicated fund and we have people in place. So we're out there trying to protect the values of everybody's homes out there. And so it's what we do.
I have one question
Yep.
on this specific. There's been a lot of back and forth about stuff behind a fence. That's included in this four corners, right?
Yeah.
Just wanted to make that clear.
As long as the fence is not right on the property line, and I don't believe it is.
No, I don't think
I'm trying to
so.
mince words. I believe there's a fence, there's things behind the fence, and I believe that is all on this property.
Okay, so with that, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor to hire junk luggers to clean up the property at 143 North County Road 250 West. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose same sign, motion carries.
And I would add that we'll want to get this started as soon as possible.
Yep. Yep. We have people that are urgently awaiting us.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Highway Department again. Morning, Jim.
Good morning. For a second time.
So the first one up, why don't you give us the lowdown, Jim?
You can do the two additionals together and the two transfers together.
Okay.
Okay, we can cover them both same time? All right. Fuel prices, fuel prices, fuel prices. You know, from when we budgeted, obviously, it's about double what it was. So that's why we need the additional and fuel. The second one we had, before Matt left, he applied for a grant through the state for railroad crossings. And we got approved for that grant, so we need to purchase the materials to paint those railroad crossings, and then we send an invoice to the state and we receive reimbursement for it.
Okay.
The grant was for $7,800, but that was a year ago, so I put a little bit extra in there to cover the increase that everything has went up. Fund transfer, we have some extra money left in salt. Our domes are full for this coming winter right now. Obviously, parts cost have increased, so we have asking for $80,000 to go from salt into parts, and then $10,000 from salt into tires for trucks.
Okay. So the first two we can do together. It's an additional appropriation, Fund 1169, the amount of $200,000 to account 2210 fuel. And that's for fuel prices. And then we have additional pro for 1169, the amount of $12,000 to account 2440 road signs. And this is for the railroad crossings to complete the state grant. So we can vote on those two together. I'll throw it to the floor for action.
Motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carries. Next up, we have two. We're going to go 3 and 4. Request to transfer funds. This again is Fund 1169 from account 22610 salt in the amount of $80,000 for vehicle repair. That's account 3650. Funds needed to increase part costs, and then we have a request to transfer funds again from 1169 to from salt again for $10,000 for tire tubes and equipment for increased parts costs. So we can vote on those two transfers together.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the two transfers for highway. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. Next up, thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
I was going to. You want to? Yeah, can we take a 5-minute break here?
I'll be quick. Sorry, everyone.
Just go ahead and sit. We'll make the break however long it is till she gets back. How about that? So, it hurt. Yeah, okay, so it wasn't just you, so. Good, so, next up, we have stormwater and development. Did they get the bids back yet for the CCMG, or so you know where you're going?
Correct. Christy Antonio went through the bids, and he said Milestone's bid was complete, and we recommend awarding the CCMG 2022 project to Milestone for $2,396,423.01.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second on awarding Milestone Construction the CCMG paving for 2022 grant. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, next up, Heirloom Subdivision Zoning Map Amendment for RR Rural Residential to R2 Medium Density Single Family Residential. The petitioner, 325 LLC. This is second reading. We will not have any public comment on second reading. It's not required. And we've already been through about 5 public hearings already, so I'll throw it to the floor for action.
I would like to ask the board to delay the vote for the purpose of giving the school district and the proposed developer an opportunity to talk. Evidently, they have not spoken to the school district, and we've already heard from the fire chief of that township that they're going to struggle keeping up with a project of that density. And I have personally, the last meeting, had spoken about the density. At the county level, density creates a problem for us because we don't have utilities like municipality has. And, when you're upside down on our ability to fund road projects that we need to be funding, I just don't understand why we would encourage a rezoning of more than 80 acres or 80 acres to create more of a problem. I don't get it. I understand the value of having utilities out to that property, but at the same time, we're approving subdivisions every month in this county that do not have utilities sent to it. So I don't buy into the claim that it's criminal if we do not hook this up or allow the city of Valparaiso to hook up to it. The city of Valparaiso wants to hook up to it, in my opinion, annex it. That's my opinion, and I don't think that we should be making decisions up here on the assumption whether or not that property or any other property in the unincorporated area of Porter County is rezoned. I don't understand why we're doing it. Our 2 largest and most expensive problems as far as county government is concerned in regard to developments, it just happens to be the 2 most densely populated areas in the county, South Haven and Sherwood Forest. There are literally millions of dollars of stormwater work that has to be done, and we're upside down on our ability to pave the roads that need to be paved out there. Again, I asked for it to be delayed to give the school the opportunity to speak to the developer.
So I just want to be clear if we do this rezoning today, what are the steps left before breaking ground? This subdivision would have to go through some more, they can't break ground this week.
No, not at all. They would have to go and start developing plans for this. It would have to go through what we would call the primary plat phase through the Plan Commission, where they are going to have to develop engineering plans. Those engineering plans would have to show the roads, stormwater, other engineering aspects that they meet our construction standards, and they would also have to go through a planning review to see to it that their design meets the requirements in planning. All of that was within our Unified Development Ordinance. That could take months.
And our stormwater standards that we have in place today, were those in place when South Haven was developed or Shorewood?
No, they were not.
So,
But they're our problem now, correct? They're our responsibility now,
correct.
correct?
They
Okay.
are.
so to step through the to step through the process a little more specifically for you, Laura. So today, the rezone request would give the developer the reliable information they need to proceed with the engineering and design tasks, which are expensive. As Bob said, it's a development of an entire set of construction plans. It's the voluminous engineering study that backs up what they're showing on the plans. Once they have that ready to go, which may take months for them to prepare, they make application to Plan Commission, to the Planning and Zoning staff for primary plat approval. And then from that point, we receive that submittal, the construction plans, the engineering study. We start our reviews. That may take months and months to get through, depending on the quality of the engineering that went into it. And then at that point, once we are finally satisfied, the engineering division, so roads, stormwater, et cetera, we found conformance with our standards. Once planning and zoning staff have found conformance with setbacks and easements and right-of-way dedications, all the sort of geometry of the development and lot coverage, things like that. And then the health department won't be involved because there's no well and septic as proposed. Then it will be prepared for presentation to the Plan Commission, at which point there will be another public hearing on the primary plat approval. And only once they have primary plat approval can they apply for permits then to actually start breaking ground and building the public improvements, the roads, the water, the sewer, the stormwater.
Correct.
Once those improvements are substantially complete, that process might take a year to build all of the improvements, depending on how they want to phase. We don't know any details about phasing, et cetera, but it may take them a year to build them, and at that point, they're substantially complete with the infrastructure. They can apply for secondary plat approval and finally get to the point where homes can start getting built. So we are some long period away, on the order of a few years probably, from them building homes out on that site.
So, and we're not, my understanding, and I've been advised that we are not to consider school issues when we are deciding whether or not to approve or disapprove these requests, correct?
Correct.
But I do think it would just make common decency sense for the developer to talk with the schools and let them know what to expect so they can plan ahead. Do you think the developer would agree to that?
Absolutely, we would agree to do that. And that's part of the process that was being identified with the primary plan.
I think some of the concerns are the school system's growing and they need to plan for expansion.
Todd, could you identify yourself and come
I'm
forward?
sorry.
Because
Yeah, I
you're entering into the record, and I want to have who it
Yeah.
is.
Sure, my name is Todd Leith. I'm an attorney. I appeared before you at the public hearing. I was at the Plan Commission as well, and I represent the petitioner in this matter.
Thank you.
Well, I agree with everything you said, Laura, but my point is, wouldn't it make more sense that that conversation with the school district is had before we rezone this property? Because once this is rezoned, it's rezoned. I mean, it could get up in front of our Plan Commission and fail miserably. It's not likely, but it could. But that rezoning to that property stays changed. And I don't know what we're hurting here. I mean,
We have a commissioner who has followed all the rules, who has
I don't-
gone through the public hearing process. We have to respect everyone.
Well, I understand that, but I've got a petitioner who I've never met asking me to change the law for him, and on a project that none of us hasn't seen yet. And I think delaying this and allowing the school to speak to them, to maybe get a little bit more comfortable, as I stated, we've already heard from the Township Fire Department. They're not prepared for this. I'm not advocating that the schools dictate to us what developments get approved or what don't get approved. I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying that no, I'm not, Jeff. No, I'm not at all. I'm saying, I just think the process is a little backwards. I think that before you start rezoning to create more density, and the township has already told us they're not ready for it. That you at least talk to the school district. You didn't talk to the fire department, but they showed up here. Now a member of the school board has showed up here. And I just don't understand. Our own department head has told us, we're talking years before they start building anyway. What's another month or so?
I also need to advise the commissioners that if they do not take final action on a rezoning within so many days after it's been forwarded by the Plan Commission, the Plan Commission ruling becomes law. And I believe that's 90 days.
Okay.
So,
I'm not advocating 90 days.
but it goes from 90 days from when the Plan Commission held their hearing, which, was that May?
I believe so.
There was two hearings at Plan, so it might have been May.
Might have been May, so I mean, you're not much time before that Plan Commission could become law.
We could, if you want to pass it for a moment, I can go double check the dates, see if we can get to the August date, if that's something the board is considering.
I would like that.
I think there's plenty of time to do everything. I don't think anyone has said that septic systems are criminal.
Yeah, they did. That was said in the Plan Commission meeting. Yes, it was. It'd be criminal, not that septic systems were criminal, that it'd be criminal not to allow utilities into that property.
That's different. Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
thanks for clarifying.
Right. And my point was, is we're approving subdivisions every month all across our county without city or town utilities. Every month.
But not a quarter mile from a mega park.
The city of Valpo's location to this property makes no difference to me. Absolutely none, and it shouldn't to you either.
It absolutely does.
No, if those people who live out in that township wanted to live in the city of Valpo, they would be living in the city of Valpo. If they wanted the density, they'd be living around the density. But that's not what they want. I got over 300 residents telling me not to do this. I got one petitioner asking me to do it. To me, it's a no-brainer. I know who I work for.
Yeah.
It's your call. Decide.
Well, I know the Plan Commission's in favor of doing this. What was your, did you find the date, Scott?
No, I would have to have a little more time. And I would probably need to go on the other computer since the Wi-Fi isn't good enough. That's gonna take me much longer out here. So if you want to pass it, I can go find that.
We just
I
move
mean,
on.
we just set it aside for a moment.
Okay. Well, we're going to come back to heirloom here once Attorney McClure gets some information here. We're going to keep moving here. We have an ordinance now next up creating a flood damage prevention. And what's that for, Mike?
I'll let Bob handle that one.
Okay.
He's been doing all the heavy lifting on that one.
Yeah.
FEMA's changed the flood maps. Most notably, they changed it up along the lakeshore, and they developed some new firm maps that will be coming out. They become effective in September. I think it's September 22nd. They also did an update of a number of our major tributaries along that. DNR comes through and audits our floodplain ordinances, our flood damage ordinances on a regular basis. And this is a major update to also include the new maps that are going to be coming in. It's kind of substantial change from what they had in the past. Most notably, I've never done a 35-page ordinance from the DNR before as far as the floodplain goes. Most of them have been considerably less, but 10 pages of that has been nothing but definitions, what is before you all. But this is a form template that we put in the Porter County information into it. DNR and FEMA do have the flood plain ordinance templates that they have, and they strongly encourage the locals to use their templates, and that's what we have done here.
So again, this is, we're going to open up a public hearing again to talk about this ordinance creating flood damage prevention. So we'll pause the commissioners' meeting, open up a public hearing. Again, three in favor, 3 against. You have 3 opportunities. So first of all, anybody wishing to come forward to speak against this ordinance creating flood damage prevention? Second call, anybody wishing to come forward to speak against flood damage prevention? And third call, anybody wishing to come forward to speak against this ordinance creating a flood damage prevention? First call, anybody wishing to come forward to speak in favor of this ordinance? Second call, anybody
I will.
This is about the ordinance at
I
hand.
understand exactly what it is. I haven't read this ordinance, but in the county, one of the issues has been flood waters on farm ground, on any other kind of ground. So any decision that the commissioners make that affects that, I'm in favor of having ordinances that affect that. It also affects other actions that you're taking, okay? And I just want to make this statement, and I realize you have recognized Attorney Todd Leith on the other issue, and I had my hand up. I understand it's not a public hearing. I've been around this game for 32 years, Jeff, not just 8. And we as a school board recognize people in our crowd when they raise their hands. We don't try to limit the conversation of someone that's coming up. But I want to say this about you as a Board of Commissioners. You've been an excellent Board of Commissioners. I have no complaint. I've stayed away from you for 20 years because you've done a good job. When I show up, it means something's probably wrong.
Second call, anybody wish to come forward to speak in favor of this ordinance? Third and final call, anybody wish to come forward to speak in favor of this ordinance? And with that, public hearing's closed. We'll throw it to the board for action. On first reading.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on an ordinance creating flood damage prevention. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. Next up, Lockmuir Group, task order number 1 for Bridge 1016. This is a U.S. Steel bridge, the U.S. Steel Bridge, which crosses U.S. Highway 12 and 2 railroads. Any other further stuff on the task here that you're asking for here, Bob?
This is just a bridge that's in need of some major repairs. We have a wall section on one of the abutments that has been broken for a number of years. We're going to be repairing that. Also, the concrete approaches are starting to slip away from the actual bridge. So it's a bridge that receives huge amount of truck traffic getting into U.S. Steel, and we've got to get up there and get it worked on and repaired.
When are you targeting this to get done?
I'm hoping, I probably need to talk with the engineer. The engineer's already been doing a lot of work as far as looking at overlay systems and contacting people that do MSE wall work. So I'm hoping this can get turned around with the engineers pretty quickly, and that we can probably get on this, if not late this year, maybe early next year.
Okay.
I mean, the timing on it couldn't be better. I mean, that with the double tracking going on, and, I mean, once that's completed, I can't imagine that traffic on that road not picking up.
It's true. I mean, the one thing that could really hold this up are the railroads. Especially, I mean, it's not so much probably the South Shore through there. It goes over, I can't remember if it's CSX or Norfolk Southern.
They wouldn't do that, would they?
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's a lot of work going in on the U.S. Steel plant too for stacking of cars and other things that come from South Shore Freight.
Right.
So there's a lot of work going on up there in that area.
Right.
Industrial stuff, big stuff.
Is that in Portage Township?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Need a motion to approve?
Yep.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for Lockmuir Group, task order number 1 for Bridge 1016. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. Next up, American Structure Point. This is for the Willow Creek Road Extension Project Corridor Plan. This is a agreement to perform services in the amount of $52,890. And I believe that is for the overlay, is that for the overlay?
Correct. Correct. This is for the overlay of looking at potential land uses and also an access management plan on this, because a little bit different in this situation compared to all the commissioners' roads in this. You're going to own the actual right-of-way for this. Once it's constructed and everything, you own the actual right-of-way. So if anybody comes forward and wants to access it, they got to come forward and request it with this board. So it's actually looking at an access management plan when constructed and also the future land use along this.
Do you mean when you say access, like cut a driveway into it?
Exactly, cut a driveway. Or ask for a commercial or residential approach to it.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second for Structure Point for Willow Creek Road Extension Plan. This is an agreement to perform the services in the amount of $52,890. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up, Willow Creek Road Extension Project. This is the engineering design consultant contract. Any further clarifications?
We have two project numbers with NDOT. One of the project numbers is for the corridor and route analysis. That is going forward. NDOT tapped the brakes on the second project number, saying that we did not properly advertise for the engineering on that. So this is what this is for. We do have considerable amount of federal funding sitting there for the engineering, but NDOT will not release it until they felt that we have properly advertised for a consultant on this. So we went through all of the steps on this.
So this is advertising for a consultant.
This is for advertising for a consultant to do the engineering. Yes.
So we actually haven't selected a consultant.
We have.
We have.
We've now properly advertised.
Now you're
Now we
gonna,
have to do it all over again.
Received LOIs, and this is the outcome of that selection
Yep.
process. Is for American Structure Point.
you need a motion?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the Willow Creek Road Extension Project and the engineering design consultant per the discussion we just had. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up, Bridge 95. This is 300 south over Ludington Ditch. So we're looking for a engineer to,
We are. We advertised RFQ on this. We received 3 letters of intent on this. Christie, Antonio, and myself reviewed the LOIs on this, and we are coming up with
got a mind of its own.
We are coming up with the recommendation of United Consulting for this bridge.
Where's this one again? 300 south over Ludington? That's
Right
straight.
east of the Porter Township Assessor's Office.
Oh, okay.
Or Porter Township Trustee's Office, I should say. Just east of 500 West.
Okay.
So you want us to approve United?
United Consulting for the design.
That is who staff is recommending.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for Ludington Ditch Design Consultant of United Consulting, Bridge 95, 300 south over Ludington Ditch. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up, we have a performance agreement for Boulder Lake Estates, formerly Kazmarek Estates. What do you got here?
Yeah, so this is a small major subdivision on County Road 100 South, just west of 500 West. The owner, Alex Kazmierczak, has been constructing the common or public infrastructure that serves the subdivision. At this point, that infrastructure is substantially complete, so he has applied for secondary plat approval to the Plan Commission Planning and Zoning staff. This performance agreement is his guarantee, and along with it, he's submitted a financial surety as well, that he's basically saying that he's going to complete all those public improvements that still need to be completed, and then that financial guarantee, the letter of credit, is our financial holding, our financial guarantee that if he does not do it, we can take that money and complete those improvements. So staff's recommending approval of this performance agreement here this morning. That will allow the owner to proceed through the secondary plat approval process.
How long is the agreement?
It's for 2 years, with the opportunity to renew that every 6 months for up to another 2 years after that. And that's per the UDO.
Motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second on a performance agreement for Boulder Lakes Estates. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. Next up, we have a request to lease a Vector truck from the Jack Doheny Group Company for stormwater and highway. Is the Vector truck that we got a few years, is this the one that we're getting rid of, or what?
Correct. The lease agreement is up in about a year, so we want to get forward and moving on this, since we've been hearing that these orders have been taking a long time lately, so we wanted to get moving on this. It was suggested by the Highway Department, their head of maintenance. So we are going to trade in the old Vector truck and get a sum for that, and then enter into a new lease agreement is what we're requesting. If we trade in the Vector truck as it is, they will give us a $147,206 credit going into this, which our current payments, we do 4 payments on this. It's 4 years, and current payment is $82,000 a year on this. With the trade-in of 147, our 4 payments will go down to $66,800 on this.
Do we have to release our current truck before we get the new truck?
They will come out and inspect it to make sure that everything is good, and they gave us the bullet points of the items that they'll be looking at to make sure that they're all in good condition to be able to receive this $147,000.
But we
That's
still,
a year from now, though, right?
It's about a year from now, yes.
so we can continue to use our...
We can
Okay.
continue to use the one,
Okay.
yes.
Till the lease is up, and
'Cause
then
like-
that, but these are hard to get, so we're trying to order out, because we're using these Vector trucks all the time
Correct.
to blow stuff out and clean stuff out, and so.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on a request to lease a Vector truck from Jack Doheny Group Company for stormwater and highway. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen. Might be called back up here, or I don't know if you'll need to be called back up. We'll see where Attorney McClure is. Can you go check on, see where Scott is, Melanie?
He's coming.
Next up, we have Friends of Portage Township. Nope. Okay, here they are. Good morning. So instead of me reading, why don't you tell everybody what we're doing here, what you're wanting to do? Good morning. Give your name and your address, please.
Lisa Leach.
Just your name.
Lisa Leach.
And Joy Lundstrom with Portage Township Trustee's Office.
Oh, okay.
And Friends of Portage
have to
Township
approve?
Foundation.
Yeah.
Or they do.
So you're requesting, what do you got going here? You're requesting a 5K run or something?
That is correct. We have reached out to Porter County Sheriff's Department. We would need 1 officer. It will be going from Haven Hollow Park through Coventry, over to Field of Dreams, and then back.
In South Haven.
Yes, in South Haven.
What's the fundraiser for?
The fundraiser is we are working on, for the construction of an ADA-compliant walkway through our amenities and playgrounds at Haven Hollow Park.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the Friends of Portage Township, permission to host a 5K fundraiser and use the county roads. All of those, a map is included. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carries. Have a good event.
Thank you.
You bet.
Look for Scott and I to be out there running.
We'll be doing that.
I'll be in the lead.
No
The
doubt.
pace car.
Yeah.
Well said.
Okay, back to the issue at hand, heirloom subdivision.
So, Indiana Code 36-7-4-608F4, I will be impressed that Mr. Thompson was spot on. It's 90 days. I checked the Plan Commission's agenda. It was heard in March and it was heard in April. April 27th was its second meeting date. So August 2nd, if this was to be continued to August 2nd, would be 98 days pursuant to that section. Action taken one way or another before the 90th day, which according to my math back on the calendar would be July 26th. If there's not action taken one way or another, it would be approved.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve it on second reading. And Mr. Leith, please ensure that your client works with the schools as soon as possible to just get them on board so they can plan accordingly.
We'll reach out immediately.
Thank you.
I'll second it. So we have a motion and a second on second reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now, thank you. We're up to the last, we're at the end of our meeting. We're gonna, anybody wishing to address this board, please come forward. Give your name, your address, and we got two mics, both on each side here. Paper and pen out.
Morning, Commissioners. My name is Jerry Eagle. I live at 277 Durness Court, Valparaiso, 46385. Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity to discuss a very important topic. I'm here to express the deep disappointment I share with many others regarding the decision to remove Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Ruth Green, a successful African-American woman who happens to be running for Congress, from speaking at the Veterans event at the Porter County Fair. She was scheduled to speak with veterans on Wednesday, July 27th at 7 p.m. Her guest appearance at the county fair was going to be in uniform as an official representative of the Indiana Air National Guard. For federal law, under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, a person acting in official capacity while in uniform is prohibited from engaging in political activity. Colonel Green is a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy, a combat veteran, and currently serving as a squadron commander of intelligence for the Air National Guard. Nobody can doubt that her dedication to our country, her willingness to put her life on the line to defend our country, has been proven many times in her military career. Now she gives much of her time and attention to her fellow veterans. She has supported veterans for years, often sharing her story of frontline combat experience. She witnessed firsthand the atrocities of war and the loss of her unit members to IED explosives. Expressing her challenges to overcome PTSD provides hope to veterans struggling from the mental stress of serving in combat. There is no doubt that her message of hope and healing could prevent another tragic suicide of a veteran. For example, on this past Memorial Day in Maryville, Colonel Green was the guest speaker while in uniform at the Memory Lane Memorial Park. She delivered a powerful and emotional description of the horrors of war that she personally witnessed, including stories of dear friends and Air Force Academy classmates who gave their last full measure of devotion by dying for our country in combat. Her deeply personal story was on point and never strayed into the political realm. Ms. Blaney, it is known you initiated action to block Colonel Green's participation in the county fair. Mr. Good, as President of the Commissioners, I am disappointed you allowed this to happen. The shameful display of a commissioner pressuring the county fair board of directors to cancel Colonel Green's guest appearance over an unsubstantiated claim motivated by petty politics is reprehensible. Using your government employee position to pressure the board to restrict Colonel Green's guest appearance is in violation of the Porter County Commissioners Code of Ethics as outlined in the first paragraph under political activity. Canceling Colonel Green's appearance was based on a false assumption and violates a Supreme Court ruling that prior restraint to restrict speech before it happens is unconstitutional. This action restricts our First Amendment rights of free speech and freedom to assemble. It certainly does nothing to help Porter County veterans. Commissioners, as a 21-year Air Force veteran myself, I request the actual facts of the matter be reconsidered and that Colonel Green's opportunity to share her inspiring message of hope and healing with our veterans be restored. Ms. Blaney, if you will not reverse course and convince the County Fair Board of Directors to restore Colonel Green's proper place as guest speaker at the Veterans event, your next appropriate action should be to submit your resignation.
Anybody else? And with that, this board, okay.
Thank you. I turned the microphone off.
Oh, I didn't speak loud, I just did my mouth. Okay, my name is Dawn. I live here in Belleville. Okay, I want to start off by saying, this is for Commissioner Blaney. Do you recall the questions that I asked during the May 17 Commissioners meeting? If not, I can refresh.
Go right ahead.
I have a few questions regarding the Memorial Opera House funding. Have you been in recent discussions about the Memorial Opera House? Is it true that you're planning on using funds from the hospital sale? Is it true that instead of the original $5.5 million, it's going to be closer to $6.5 million? If you didn't remember, I just refresh your guys' memory. Because at the Porter County Council meeting on June 28th, the architect, the builder, and Scout McDonald presented your lavish upgrade to the Memorial Opera House in the amount of $6.5 million, from which you asked the county council for a bond from the sale of the hospital. Community feels this is reckless of using our community funds, especially since we're in a recession. The building is historic and understandably needs updates to maintain this beautiful building. Memorial Opera House has had necessary upgrades, has received money from grants and donations over the years to keep it in good condition. Just to name a few upgrades and grants. 2013, the roof and the structural upgrades were done. Cost was $315,000. In 2017, Memorial Opera House received $35,000 from a preservation grant. 2018, Memorial Opera House received a $500 grant from the Girls Giving Fund. In 2022, Memorial Opera House received 2 Arts Commission grants, initially approved for $26,033.68, but received a second round of funding for an additional $2,603.37, totaling $28,637.05. Another question for you, Commissioner Blaney. How much was your proposal for the Memorial Opera House project in 2018?
It's $6.5 million right
Well,
now.
do you recall how much it was in 2018? It was $3 million then. And then my other question, I guess, is why did you ask $5.5 million from the ARPA funds when that was supposed to be for all COVID? And this apparently is not
And we took
COVID related.
it out of the ARPA funds.
I'm sorry?
It's not part of the.
No, I know it's not. You asked for it in the beginning.
Because
and
it
got-
did
got
fit. It
declined,
fits
turned
very
down.
well. It didn't get declined or turned down. I chose to pull it back with my colleagues because the public wasn't a big fan. I mean, we have our auditor right here. It
I've
definitely
been to every one of the
was
meetings, I understand
positive.
that.
It definitely would have qualified, correct?
So in 2012, did you leave your position as the board of directors for the Memorial Opera House to run for commissioner?
No.
Okay. Is it true that the Memorial Opera House donated $3,000 or more to your campaign?
No.
I know that's true for sure because I looked it up myself.
Absolutely, it's not true.
Okay.
I spent $3,000 at Memorial Opera House to buy a playbill ad. Perhaps you
I know
looked at the
all
wrong
of the
side of
dealings
the.
with the Memorial Opera House with you.
Apparently you
and I mean,
don't. They did not.
It's a
donate
lot of
money
money
to-
that you're asking for this
Yes, it
community
is.
to invest in something that is not self-sufficient, that does not bring in revenue for this county.
It is self-sufficient.
It what?
The operations are self-sufficient.
That's interesting. From all the researching that I've done, it's not. and you've got Scout McDonald coming up here talking about your Penguin project, which I find interesting, was put in a teeny tiny little article. If this was very important to you guys, it wouldn't have been with the Times where you get your coupons. No, this would have been a front page article.
We don't get to decide where the newspaper puts their
I'm
articles.
just saying, you're trying to tug at people's hearts to get their attention to the Penguin project. I understand what the point of that was, so. Just why now? Why is it all of a sudden it needs this big, huge, lavish upgrade at this
We have
point?
finished upgrading all of our other buildings with the exception of this one and the center garage and the jail. And it's time, and we're in a good position to do it, and the place is growing, our population is growing, and we're in a great position financially at the county. We have the lowest income tax rate in the state.
Is it true then that the board,
What board is this?
well, I'm just going back here. Let's see, revenue, interest, county foundation. So look, it's about what, 198 to 165 million? And see, the county council can allocate half of that, roughly 2.5%, other half principal account. So basically, how are we in such a great position right now?
I really don't know what you're
To put all this money
talking
into this project? I'm just curious.
I don't understand what numbers you just.
Well, that's fine, that's fine, that's why I put reading it. But I'm just curious how you feel. we're in
All of our
great
buildings
position
have been
for
brought
county.
up to, they're ADA compliant, they're weather tight, they're efficient, they're on maintenance schedules. We have the lowest income tax rate in the state. We can use hospital foundation interest money to pay off a bond. I think if you thought I didn't want to use money from the sale of the hospital, I meant the direct proceeds. I do not want to use the principal. I've been very vocal about protecting the principal along the way for future generations. As a matter of fact, our spending policy at the foundation accounts for inflation, and we don't even spend all that we can take out of it. We put it back into the principal, so it will
take
grow.
into account, you just brought up recession and inflation. Why now? Why is it a good time? Obviously, again.
We need the arts.
We need the arts.
We need the arts. We need great things for the community to do. There's lots of kids
A lot of people
involved.
disagree with you on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next. Oh, we got one coming here.
I appreciate you opening it up for public comment at the end, Jeff.
Always do every meeting, Bob.
I'm fully aware of that, and I didn't intend to insult you in what I said.
But you did.
And, you know, I knew.
It's not good in Christ, but my friend,
It's what?
you know what I meant.
It's what? Anyway, the point of what I wanted to say is, it's disappointing for me to see you as commissioners approve a double zoning increase because of the fact that 32 years ago, those kinds of things were being done because the subdividers were promoting East Porter County as Valpo schools, which it's not, and you guys know that it's not. So to promise, I'm disappointed in the Plan Commission having approved it and sending it to you as an approval, because there are serious questions in my mind and in our board's mind as to what happens to sewage when it goes into Valpo's plant to begin with. I'm not just a school board member. I've been here 60 years, Jeff. I'm also 70 years old, which is considerably older than you. So think about how your dad would ask you to respect me as a 70-year-old instead of your position here as the president of this commission. Okay? You were also in a youth group through my church, so understand that. When I come and speak, I speak from the authority of 32 years and 70 years of experience, okay? You have a distinct position as president of this board. I do not believe you listen to the public, and your responsibility is, all of you as commissioners, to do what's best for Porter County, not what's best for a developer or not what's best for Valpo, but what's best, and what's interesting is my following of you guys for the last 8 years since you've been on, Jeff, has been positive. It's been very positive. I was called into this. I realize I'm here as the horse is already out of the door, okay? I understand, and I understood when I came that I was gonna be too late, okay? I knew when I came. But I did expect to have an ear, and you're not making eye contact with me right now. Okay, I coach still too, and I know people don't listen when they're not making eye contact with you, okay?
Got it.
I'm just saying, you've set a precedent of jumping and of a developer who, through his attorney, had told our superintendent, we'll have contact with you. Mrs. Blaney's been trying to be active through this. I don't think you were contacted. I'm not blaming you in that, Jeff, at all. I'm saying there needs to be some continuity between, if we're gonna say the county's gonna be this, then let's keep the standard as it is, not hoping that having our sewer problems taken to Valpo, who has their own sewer problems, is gonna solve anything, okay? And also not having a situation recreated from 32 years ago, where we went through a 90% voter turnout on the issue of, do we wanna go with Valpo or do we wanna stay Morgan, Washington, and Cowes, okay? 90% voter turnout. You know what happened? The good people who I also respected that wanted Valpo, who had been sold a bill of goods because of density of how the subdivisions were being built, and I can name you the ones, and not you, were being told by their realtors, these are Valpo schools, and if they're not now, they soon will be. And to even say annexation, to most people, annexation means that's the school district. It isn't. They're separate lines, okay? So when we make statements that don't include everything, or when the board is given partial facts, or when a school corporation is not included in a major decision of rezoning, it's very detrimental to the county. And you guys have been great commissioners. I encourage you to think about what you're doing in the future. We're going to follow this through to the past. I appreciate, Laura, that you told them to meet with us, but somebody told us the last time they were going to meet with us, and they didn't. Okay, we're where we are because I was called in, because we have upset parents, because we're trying to do building projects, and how do we plan when we don't know what's going on? Okay, so I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. Your family has been with our family for many, many years, okay? You have a short fuse, and so do I, okay? Doesn't make us bad people, just means I have to learn how to talk to you better, and I apologize if I've insulted you, okay? Seriously, I'm dead serious. Thank you for the time.
Thanks, Bob. Next up, come on, there's a microphone right here.
My name is Nick Furlis. I'm a disabled Vietnam veteran. I have one question for the board. How many of you are veterans? Especially you. I didn't think so.
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Jessica Jepson, 1259 Sherwood Drive. There's a lot of information that comes from these meetings. I took so many notes and want to talk about so many things. And if it helps in the future, the property up at 143 and 250, that's underlying a mental health issue. And so what's going to prevent this from occurring again? Have you guys put plans in place, or is the county going to have to continue to fork out money? And then my other question would be that Junkalunkers, where are they putting all the junk? Is it going to be a continual issue? So just a couple things out of that. The timing of the commissioners' meetings. You guys handle our tax dollars, and you're deciding how our tax dollars are spent. I'm missing 2.5 hours of work, which means less tax dollars to you guys. Please move these meetings to the evenings where people can participate, who are the ones giving you the tax dollars. I wasn't going to do this, but I saw a very clear example here. Titles, putting people on pedestals and egos. I have no problem calling anybody out on anything. I've completely, used to be an issue of mine. Now I see people for who they are. And it's not really good when I've been listening to commissioner meetings and so forth, and there was a very clear example that occurred today. I've heard a lot that has come from Blaney and her demeanor towards people. You're serving the community. There's no ego, there's no title, it's pure humbleness. There's no pointing of fingers. There should not be apologies coming from the audience to you guys whatsoever. I don't see humbleness at all. The Memorial Opera House, which is one of the things that I wanted to speak about. I sent a FOIA request to Scott McClure, Attorney McClure. Thank you very much. You've been very responsive. June 30th, I sent a response or a question in regards to wanting to know what all income's coming in, what all the expenses are, the revenue and so forth. I still don't have, and I know on a government side of things, these things, they're called different. They're called different things, but on the business side, a balance sheet, an income statement, a profit and loss for the Memorial House. I know it's different on your end. I still don't have that. What was that, Vicki?
We do prepare balance sheets and income statements because
Okay.
we're a Gap County.
Okay, perfect. So exactly for the Memorial Opera House. And this has been 2 weeks now since then. To me, it should have been a click of a button to give a citizen that information when you're talking about going out for a $7 million bond. And it's 2 weeks and you don't have that information to send me on what all the revenue streams are, what all the expenses are. Today, we just heard this gentleman saying there's a cash flow issue with the Memorial Opera House when he came up here and spoke earlier. Go back into the recording and you can listen. He said there's a cash flow issue. Yet we're going to sit here and put out millions of dollars from Memorial Opera House, and I can't even have what the revenue streams are, and, or is it a loss, is it not, where are all the grants coming from? And it should have been that easy, and you guys should have had it at a click of a button to send to me if you're sitting here meeting with contractors and all of these other things. We should know that very
Can I
quickly.
respond? I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but I would like to respond. Attorney McClure and I have been working on your request. I can't speak for anyone else who might be dealing with you. I only know what I did. It is available at the click of the button. Our financial statements are available online, but what I did was I pulled out all the Memorial Opera House balance sheets and income statements, copied them, scanned them, highlighted them, wrote up a description, but you can access it already online. But I gave it to Scott McClure to review to see if in his legal opinion, was there anything else. So I believe that that's coming. But it is available to citizens, everything is available online. But to make this clear, because it is complicated and it's complex, and the average citizen may not know exactly what it all means, we are trying to put together a more elaborate explanation. For us to just throw everything out at you and go hunt for it yourself, that would be, I think, disrespectful of your request.
I super appreciate that, and I understand the complexity of it, and do we get matching grant funds? Do we get, how much do we have to, fork out to get certain grants? I understand, grant cycles, all that stuff. And it is very complex when you look at it. So I hope you guys are looking at that, and I will look through it with a fine-tooth comb, because we do need the arts, and we have to be responsible. I read an article today, we're officially in like a recession. You guys know that. So maybe we need to take this money and put it straight towards mental health, because we're seeing that, and we're having to fork out money on the other side of it to junkalunkers because we're not taking care of the mental health. So that's it. Sorry, long and winded.
Thank you. My name is Kay Fratasha Seibert, and I want to speak about the Opera House, Memorial Opera House. I have been on the Opera House Foundation board for many years. My late husband was also working with the Opera House in the 90s. It is an asset in the community, not only because the piece of property does honor veterans and their service. It is an asset because the arts have saved lives of many people who didn't have other places to belong. I think the issue about the cash flow is a very complex issue, and we're actually talking about two separate organizations that work together collaboratively. Having been on the foundation board for many years, I saw it go from being in the red under leadership that was not as effective, and I have seen leadership change. Scott McDonald stepped into this role and has done a marvelous job. We are in the black, well in the black. The budgeting is clear, it is transparent. There are two separate budgets. There's obviously your budget, the county budget, which supports the Opera House operations. There's also the foundation budget. The foundation is the fundraising arm of the Opera House. The reason there's a cash flow, it is not a cash flow difficulty, it's trying to get money in the right place. The foundation sponsors and helps to bring concerts and wonderful events, but the tickets are sold through the Opera House Eventbrite site, so it goes into the county coffers, but it needs to come back to the foundation because they're the ones who have sponsored many of these events, so it's just moving the money very transparently to where it needs to be. And I think it is hard for people to understand. I think what is hard for people to understand, whether it's the park and the Park Foundation, the Opera House, the Opera Foundation, the foundation and the Opera House itself are two separate entities, but we're trying to work very closely, carefully, and transparently to not only stay in the black, but to make a profit for this community and to help, bring entertainment and save lives of those who need a place to belong. The arts in this community build community. People work together. They have a place to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And I personally want to thank you for all that you've done to support that organization. Thank you.
Real quickly, I'd also like to add, she talked about the county budget that we support, but we support it via money that the Memorial Opera House brings in. So if the Memorial Opera House went away, it's not like we'd have extra money sitting there, because the money they expend is money they bring in, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
My name is Deborah Pace, and I live on 325 East, right next to those 80 acres that are now going to be rezoned and that is going to receive a dense subdivision put in there. I want to thank Commissioner Biggs for actually listening to the residents in the area and for fighting on our behalf. I sent emails to all of the commissioners, and Mr. Biggs was the only one who ever responded. So he's the one that was serving the community. I didn't see anything from either of the other two commissioners. And I do want to ask the developer and his investor to think about, when they start developing their plans, think about the people that live there. And think about whether or not you'd want that subdivision put next door to your property. And how would you want it to appear if it was there? Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
To be clear, a quick check, I did respond to your email on May 26th.
You were going to call me the next day, you never did.
And with that, this board stands in recess.